welcome to Cafe Chronicles. Tonight we have Karim Gideon. How you doing, Karim?
I'm doing all right, man. Happy to be here.
Thanks for doing this.
No problem, man.
All right. Trumpet.
Yes, sir. The hardest instrument in the world to play.
I have never tried to play trumpet.
Don't ever try to play the trumpet.
No,
it's hard. It's the greatest and worst relationship you ever be in your life.
Yeah. Wow. I've never.
Seriously. Like if you married and your home situation is bad, nah. You got nothing on playing the trumpet. The trumpet will. She's brutally honest, and she's needy, and she will let you know.
Yeah.
If you take 1 minute off of me, it's not gonna happen tonight, Kareem.
Yeah.
So it's a lifelong relationship.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that you have to like. There's so much behind the process of getting to the point where you can play that thing at a high level.
Play a note, right?
Play a note. We don't have the luxury of a saxophone where their reed is what creates their notes. Our reed is our lips.
Yeah.
So
saxophone, that was my first instrument. Yeah. Alto sax. Yeah.
Even you look at the saxophone, you see it's intimidating. It's very complex. Yeah. And you look at the trumpet, it's like, 3 valves, and this is easy. And then you put that mouthpiece on your lips.
You got to come up with 12 notes.
12 notes.
Right?
12 notes, and in some cases, 4 octaves.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
But the trumpet is very it can be very dynamic too, right?
Yeah.
Because you get the trumpet blasts, and then you can do the soft. Like you can use the I don't know what's that thing called? It's like a plunger.
Mute. Yeah. You actually have guys that get their plunger. Go to Ace Hardware, buy a plunger, and you get to playing.
Yeah.
And some guys will use cups like a wine glass, or and they'll start.
Are there different kind of mutes that produce different sounds?
Yeah, the more traditional ones is referred to as the Harmon mute or the wah-wah mute. That's the mute made famous by Miles. And then there's a cup mute, which is a little bit more softer sound, and then you have a bucket mute.
Is it just the shape of it?
Yeah, the shape of it. The bucket mute looks like a bucket. The cup mute looks like a cup. Straight mute is just more of just a straight cylinder. Look like this from when they used to put glass bottles in the horn. Huh. Yeah, this story's down in the cash used to do.
They put the neck of the bottle.
They put the neck of the bottle into to soften the sound a little bit. And then you have there's derbies where guys used to pull off their derbies and their hats and
yeah. I've seen that.
You ever see Wynton Marsalis's some of his stuff where you have like a stool on stage with him with a collection of mutes. And you have a big old derby. And same thing with Clark Terry did the same thing. Yeah. A lot of the guys from New Orleans that's their thing, and then Miles just made it cool just to play on Harmony mute. So you need to do all that.
How did you get started playing trumpet?
Started in the 5th grade.
Yeah.
I was selected out of a crop of kids to join the beginning band, and I was selected because I was kind of a rambunctious kid. I was the kid that got into a lot of fights. Had good grades.
Yeah.
Made honor roll, did all of that, but I didn't take any crap. So my principal and my mother had a conversation, and not to mention my mother felt like at that time this boy's sitting up in here playing Nintendo all day. We need to get him doing something.
Yeah.
So they thought it would be a good idea for me to join the school band. I originally wanted to play the saxophone, and that wasn't available because everybody wanted to play the saxophone.
Yeah.
So the clarinet was available. I didn't want to play the clarinet because I'm already getting into fights in 5th grade. I don't need to add an extra 3 bouts, 3 years.
You think people would tease you for playing clarinet?
Maybe.
Yeah.
The school I went to,
Yeah.
Like some of my friends, they like to roast and rib you. So that would have happened. I would have added another couple days of suspension. So the trumpet was available, so I picked the trumpet. I thought it was cool, and it was right about the time Mo Better Blues came out, so everybody was playing Denzel playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, Denzel looked cool.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Highland Park.
Okay.
I grew up right off of 6 Mile and Woodward.
Okay.
So right there on the border between the other half of the north end of Detroit and there.
Well, Highland Park's like a mile long or something.
2.5 miles.
2.5 miles.
2.5 miles. It's at the time when I went, we had four K through 8 schools, and we had the high school. So, and all the schools at the time had music programs, and it was very unfortunate because the band directors, they would spend half their time at one school and at the other school. So there was 3 band directors, the main band director at the high school, and then one band director took care of the 2 schools on more of the southern end of Highland Park, and then one band director covered where I went to school, which was Liberty School and Ford Middle School. So she would have days allotted like Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, select times, and then the other school so she had to split her time. So the main thing was, for me was just trying to ask the right questions to get better.
Yeah. Have you been playing steadily like since 5th grade?
Yeah, steadily.
Yeah. Has it always been jazz?
No. Middle school was more like concert music and
marching band.
When I started high school, I was really getting into classical. I first heard someone gave me a tape of Wynton Marsalis playing the Haydn and the Hummel, Tomasi concertos and things like that, and Carnival of Venice. So I wanted to do that. But then middle of freshman year of high school, I heard John Coltrane, My Favorite Things, live Newport Jazz Festival in 1965. Changed my life. 17 minutes of just intensity, spirituality, soul, storytelling, Coltrane, this train. And you're 14 years old and you hear that, you like, I want to do that. Yeah. I want to figure out how to do that. And then a few months later, here's Teddy Harris getting ready to start his residency at my high school, being an artist in residence. So it's sort of like was a perfect storm, and everything, the stars was aligned. And I remember my first lesson with Teddy. I'm going to give you the edited version of this. So we're at the piano, and I have my trumpet on top of the piano. He says, here's 3 things you need to know. You don't know a thing. I don't know a thing either, but I know more than you. So let's sit at this piano and figure this out together. That's the edited version. So, and then it went from the process. He found out that I was transcribing already before he had to tell me to. That was the first lesson. Hey, you need to check out Miles. Go check out Kind of Blue. And I said, this? He's like, well, we don't have to do that, so continue doing that.
Yeah.
And we just proceeded. It was more of like learning. I had to learn 3 tunes a week. And then from there, the 3 tunes I learned, I had another tune the following week, or another 2 tunes. And then I had to learn the language, which is learning how to play a 2-5-1. So his first thing was you have first to be able to hear a 2-5-1. So he gets on the piano. Ding. What's that? I don't know. It's a minor chord. Dun.
Yeah.
Second chord. Dominant chord. Dominant 7. Dun. The last one I heard, it was major. That's a major chord.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. So so some days when I used to have to skip band. I used to get in trouble because I used to be in the room with him on the piano playing 2-5-1s. I had to be in band rehearsing. And I got in trouble for that. I remember when I was in high school, I had to make arrangements with teachers. Like, I'm here, I'm in school, I'm studying with Dr. Harris. Can I get the homework assignments? And I'll hand them the previous.
Yeah.
They said, cool, as long as you're here for the exams. So if I had the exam, I had to go take the test. But they gave me a little bit of leeway in that regard, because since I was serious about this, and I was, for that 3 years of my life, it was amazing, because I got to sit with one of the greatest teachers on our scene. But not only that, the greatest musicians. Teddy is a very interesting person, because when he got out of the army, he spent a couple years in Paris, and he studied with Mademoiselle Boulanger, Nadia Boulanger, the famous music teacher out of Paris. She taught, she was best friends with Stravinsky. She taught Quincy Jones, myriad of composers and arrangers. And it's like, I didn't realize at the time, how that lineage is. And I remember he used to have me read books by her. I didn't know what I was reading. I was 16. I was ignorant. Yeah. And then years later, I realized, this is the woman who taught this man. This is why, if you ever heard like the New Bebop Society, their arrangements and how they performed, it was very elegant and refined process.
Yeah.
But then when Teddy picked up the saxophone, he was coming out of Coltrane and Yusuf. And so he knew how to, with his students, he knew how to point you in that direction where you needed to go. So for me, one of the cool things he would always do is give me tapes of people to listen to. So he'd give me some Clifford Brown, some Max Roach, some Mark Farmer, some Donald Byrd, of course. I got a good story about meeting Donald Byrd. Art Farmer. He was just like, he said, the main thing is you're going to be listening for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point.
Because listening is a very important part of playing, in a way.
It is.
For a jazz musician.
It is. It's a subconscious way of learning the music.
Yeah.
'Cause you have to deal with the physical approach. You have to sit and learn how to swing and develop a swing feel, which is the hardest, developing your feel and your sound. But there's things where you learn techniques that can help you execute your phrasing and learn how to play a certain way to get your sound together. But the thing, I call it like it's the blues, like really understanding the blues on a deeper level than understanding it's just 1-4-5, and most kids think it's just a scale. It's like, no, it's deeper than that. Teddy used to ask me questions about what I'm listening to, and 90s, I'm listening to Wu-Tang Clan. I'm listening to Nas and Pac and Biggie, experiencing all of that. But my mother's a very eclectic woman when it comes to music, so I listened to like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and a lot of those bands as well. My household was, if it sounded good, they listened to it. There was only one exception.
That's great.
It was that my mother didn't like raunchy music. So, like when I was a teenager, the infamous Lil' Kim poster.
Oh, yeah.
With Teenage Boy, you want to put that up in the room. And my mother came in and saw that and got hurled 4-letter words and told, I was called mannish. That's what older black people would say, you're being a little mannish. So I couldn't have that. So like for me, I couldn't listen to the blues because a lot of the blues is very raunchy. Like some of it. Like,
no, I know what you mean, but
like it could be very raunchy.
Yeah.
So my mother didn't like raunchy music. So I didn't really dig into the blues until I got out of the house when I joined the military.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because when did you first start like playing with other people, like in like because now you have like the Karim Gideon quartet, right?
Yeah.
Like back in the day, did you have groups like that?
Yeah, we did.
I mean, do you remember the first time you led a group, or the first time you were in a group?
There was a bunch of us that had like smaller combos here and there, and we was high school, the best of the high school kids. And Teddy would like call us up, hey, I need you to open for so and so. It was like, I think Marcus Belgrave Jr., Marcus's son. Someone like Black Box, Charles Wilson, piano player.
Sure.
I grew up with him. Roland Hamilton, a good friend, two good friends of mine. We started playing together. A guy named Jerome Ford and another guy named Angelo Stokes. They're from Highland Park. They went to Liberty as well, and a few other guys. They collectively from like Cass Tech. A good friend of mine, he went to King, Edwin Fabre, and a guitar player I knew from Brett Farkas, and and we will all just play together. I met a lot of them when I started going to Harold McKinney's workshop at the Serengeti, and that's when Teddy was like, "Okay,
Serengeti, I haven't heard that name in a while."
Yeah,
Serengeti Ballroom.
Thursday nights.
Wow.
My junior, senior high school, Thursday nights.
Yeah.
I was at Serengeti Ballroom getting the third degree from the great Harold McKinney. But it was, I think about that time of my life and being able to sit with two different contrasts of masters.
Yeah.
Third, you put Marcus Belgrave in the mix, where he focused more on just playing the trumpet, how to play your phrasing, getting a good clean sound technique. Where Harold and Teddy taught me two aspects of subconscious playing. Like Harold dealt with esoteric concepts, where Teddy was more abstract concepts. So Teddy would teach me about, okay, he'll ask me, what's your favorite comedian? So 90s will probably be like Eddie Murphy or Martin Lawrence or Def Jam, Def Comedy Jam. And he would tell me, like, okay, I need you to go transcribe one of their routines. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, go transcribe.
Like their cadences?
Yeah,
like
cadence,
the
cadences, learn the flow and cadences.
That's very interesting.
And then Harold would be more of, like, understanding the consciousness and the spiritual connection of the music. So his thing was learning the meaning. So you're playing Maiden Voyage. What does Maiden Voyage mean? I don't know. And then he gets into a dissertation about Maiden Voyage. Yeah. He gets into a dissertation about playing So What. One of the stories I tell a lot of young players when I'm here on Sundays, I'm hanging out.
On Sundays, just so everyone knows, Aretha's Jazz Jam.
Exactly.
On Sundays at 7 o'clock, hosted by Scott Gwinnell.
Yes, the great Scott Gwinnell.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I tell a lot of young players is I was at the Serengeti at the workshop, and I'm there. It's myself, Harold's twin daughters, and the rhythm section was Jalo Jacate, Greg Cook, and Lorenzo Rhodes.
Greg Cook, yeah.
You know, and Greg Cook and Jalo was Harold's rhythm section up until he passed. And we decided to play Oleo. And there was a saxophone player that comes in. And he's like, we guys are playing. We see playing Oleo. I go, do you know the song? Yes or no? Please tell me. Because I know how Harold is. Huh. He said, yeah, I know it. I said, okay. I'm 16, so I'm like, okay. We go up there and played. He didn't know the melody. And then he solos first. 30 seconds after getting through the first A section of the head, I see Harold walking. And I'm like, we're done. I said, we're in trouble. So he's playing. He plays 2 choruses. Then I take my 2 choruses, and his twin daughters does the same thing. Lorenzo about to get ready to play. I look over. I see Harold tell him to scoot over. Harold does his thing. You've ever heard Harold McKinney play? This is an experience. He will start. He just build the intensity, and then he gets to the point where he's playing that the rhythm section can't keep up with him. So Jalo and Greg was to stop playing, and Harold was just
go.
He's
right?
gone.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you hear boop head, right on it. Play the head out. Then he pulls up the microphone and he says, asks the saxophonist, what's his name? He tells us his name. He said, Do you know this tune? And I was just like, just say no. Just he lied to Harold. Yeah. He's like, and Harold, I used to consider Harold omniscient. Like, he knows everything. This guy had a photographic memory. He had perfect pitch. You can't get no better than that. And he was like, who do you listen to? This is the danger part of this. He said that one saxophonist, infamous saxophone player, he said Kenny G.
Oh.
Harold went off. I'm gonna do the edited version of what he said. He said, from now on, from the time you wake up in the morning, tomorrow morning, to the day you die, it's Charlie Parker. You better get you a picture of Bird, put it on your altar. When you wake up in the morning, you better be listening to some Bird. When you at work, in a car, you listen to the Bird. When you buy you a real book, you better be playing Bird. When you with your old lady, which he went more explicit, better be listening to Bird. Charlie Parker is your God until the day you die. Do not come back here playing that BS. That 16-year-old boy knows more about Bird than you do. That should tell you something. Don't do that. Don't. But that's how serious it was. But when I learned later, that comes from all those guys learning from Barry Harris.
Yeah. Where's that kid now?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know.
But he's
probably listening to Bird.
He's still listening to Bird right now.
He's better be listening to Bird.
And that was also Harold's way of warning me, everything goes through Bird. Yeah. Everything goes through Bird and Louis Armstrong.
So you said you had these two teachers that had this, one was kind of eccentric and one was. Did you ever take those two schools of the way they taught you and kind of use them together?
Yeah, that's what I do.
And
it's like when I'm here Sundays and I talk to some of the cats, I say, and they talk about the blues. I said the blues is much more deeper than what it is. There's right now the big move right now is Sinners. That's I'm going to eventually go catch it, and that was the culture back then. That was the blues. There was the story of Robert Johnson going to the crossroads.
Yep,
that's the fable, but it's something there that made Robert Johnson connect to people on a deep spiritual level, and that little bit of time he had fed into the consciousness of the people that his music affected, and it still affects to this day, to where it influenced rock musicians. It influenced trying to think, the Beatles and the Stones and Zeppelin and the Who and all those great rock bands.
There's a whole mythology about it,
Yeah. And same thing when you listen to Louis Armstrong, you hear that there's that thing that made pops great.
Yeah.
And that's from coming up in New Orleans and the mythology of the great New Orleans trumpet players such as Frederick Capard and Buddy Bolden, because there's no recordings of Buddy.
Yeah.
So someone like Louis got to hear Buddy play and experience that legend, and then of course being mentored by the great King Oliver, who was part of that group of great New Orleans trumpet players. Understanding the blues, because they always refer to the blues. The same thing we listen to Ellington. Ellington was the first perennial jazz composer, but there was something there that made people want to listen to his music. It was the blues. It was the understanding of black culture and understanding of back in the day, the Cotton Club with the dancers.
Yeah.
And not only
that's kind of like the whole thing behind it's like a folk kind of thing. It's more than the music. It's like you said, the culture and the underlying generational, it's the vibe.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
And even when I was with Harold, he explained in very esoteric abstracts, but he like understanding your aura, like you have an aura. When you walk into the room, people see your vibe, and then you have to tap into that.
Yeah.
And like his vibe was orange. He said his aura, he told me orange. And I asked, like, at the time, like, what's my vibe? He said, you don't have one yet. Don't worry. I think now I talk to like certain guys, like they said, yeah. They said when I show up at the jam, it is a vibe change.
Yeah.
Like a lot of guys,
change.
like how a lot of guys know. Okay, Kareem's here. We're gonna have to play a little bit.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to play Kareem's one. They think of me as one of the cats.
So are you saying that you're different when you get on stage?
Yeah,
than
like
when you are in.
Yeah, when I'm off stage, where I'm more when I'm up there, and someone commented like, I like the fact that you direct the cats, because if you don't, they'll get up there and take 375 courses.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I get that a lot, like when I perform.
Yeah.
Like Justin, I was showing you that video of me performing. This was years ago, but it's just me and a guitar, and I'm singing. And you said what? You said
that you're like a totally different person up there.
Yeah.
Like even in your voice, everything, it's like you jump into a whole different Ted. Like it's still you, but it's a different Ted.
You tap into something that's like.
But you didn't think it was me for a minute, right?
Not really. I mean, even the voice and everything. When you get into that pocket,
it's like
it's almost like you're a whole new person.
Yeah,
it's like
I get that a lot though.
Yeah, it's like when you, for instance, one of my favorite bands is Radiohead. You see Tom York. Tom York is not very shy, reserved person, but when he gets on the stage and he gets that microphone and he's at that piano or his guitar, he becomes very animated. He's a different person, and even how he sings, his falsetto is different, completely different. A lot of cats like that.
No, I agree. That's a lie. I think that's with actors too.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
And that was going back to Teddy. Teddy would have me transcribe monologues, like transcribe
for movies.
Or speeches. Like I had to transcribe using like speeches of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Paul Robeson. Understand their cadence and flow, because he explained to me like there's this thing of phrasing that is very unique to those of us in the African American community. Like even like how we inflect, how we walk, how we prepare our food, and how we dress. It's like it's there. It's like hard to explain, and the only thing I come to is the blues. The blues is the only thing that as not as a musical form, but it's like a subconscious thing to Black culture.
So he wanted you to do this, so you could represent. That was the end goal. For that.
Because his thing was, one of the most important things he ever taught me was, I didn't hear a difference between Charlie Parker and Jimi Hendrix. I don't hear the difference between Stevie Wonder and, at that time in my life, Tupac. He said it's all connected.
He said that, or you said that?
He said that to me.
He said that, yeah.
He said it's all connected. He said, I remember there was an interview when Donald Byrd came to town. It was an interview with Ed Love, and he told Ed Love, Louis Armstrong was the first rapper.
Ed Love, the great
Ed Love. And Ed
DJ
Love
over at WDET.
And Ed Love started laughing. And then Donald Byrd explained it. Like, you listen to Louis Armstrong, the way he phrased when he would scat and he would sing, the way he phrased everything, those inflections, the use of the spirit of the blues, and tapping into something in himself. That influence, of course, Billie Holiday, Ellis Fitzgerald, all the great jazz singers have also influenced a lot of the great blues singers, and a lot of the soon-to-be, like Louis Jordan, the budding rhythm and blues sound and the rock sound. In the 60s, Pops had a hit, had another hit.
Yeah.
Beat the Beatles, singing Hello Dolly. And you would think, why? How the hell this happened? But it's something that's Louis Armstrong. He tapped in, he at that point, it was nuance. And the Beatles are still trying at that time to tap into that energy. And when the Beatles did, and all those great groups did, it was something fierce. Same thing here in Motown when the Motown sound kicked off, or you go down to Stax, you go down to Stax, or Philly International, or even the great gospel groups that came out of Detroit. It's something spiritual to it, and then it's understanding the consciousness and spirituality of that at the same time, the abstracts of it. So Teddy would have me, like I said, have me transcribe a lot of things. It was also a compositional technique. So using certain scales, like, okay, use the diminished scale when you do this. Use the augmented scale. Use the blues scale. Use the pentatonic scale.
When you're transcribing,
monologues
and
things?
Okay.
He was trying to develop. I think his way, a Miyagi way of developing harmonic concept.
Miyagi way.
It was like that's the best way to describe it. Like how Mr. Miyagi used abstract concepts.
No, I understand it completely. That's a great way to say it. Yeah.
And where Harold wants you to understand the connection. So it was like he would tell me to meditate on a note, like drones and meditation. And when you're that age, you don't understand it. And then when I got to stationed in Japan, I'm 18 and I'm 40 miles away from Tokyo, and you go to a different place that's a megapolis like Tokyo, where you see these huge tall buildings, but there's a shrine in the middle of tons of shrines in the middle of Tokyo. And I remember when I first told them I was getting stationed there, Teddy gives me all the list of all the places to play.
Nice.
He said, go check this out. Go check these guys. I know a few guys. Harold was like, go make sure you go to the shrines. Pay your respects to them. Respect them. Japanese are very deep and spiritual people with deep traditions. Respect that and learn from them. It would influence the way you play. Because I think Harold spent some time in Germany. So he understands a lot of German culture. He spoke German, fluent German. Like German cats would come in and he would sit down and have the conversations with German. That was one of the things he told me, make sure you learn Japanese. Unfortunately, I learned Japanese is a very hard language.
Yeah.
I learned at the time I could speak about 400 to 500 words, but now I'm down to maybe 5.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there was a Japanese singer that showed up to the jam, but at the same time, I knew how to communicate with her.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And of course, Aya, the pianist Aya, she's from Osaka, and me and her she was like, your Japanese is okay. It's
That's fantastic.
She's like, you don't need, she said, you need to practice more, but I could still
So you did learn something.
Yeah. I learned I understood the dialects, like Tokyo dialect and down south like Osaka or Fukuoka or Kyoto, they have a different dialect of speaking. So I always thought of it as the difference between being from Detroit and being from Atlanta, or Detroit and New Orleans, or how here in Detroit, you go to Philly, we have a different vernacular than the guys over in Philly or in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, but there's similarities, as far as culture wise, there's differences, And it's something when I was in school, one of the things I researched was how we migrated and where we migrated from. So typically a lot of black people from down south, my family hails from Alabama. And a lot of people I know, Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee. And then someone from the East Coast, their family typically is from Georgia, the Carolinas, Florida. And then most people from Louisiana, there's a mixture of Louisiana and Mississippi. And then a lot of them went out west. So you see someone like Snoop Dogg, his people are from Mississippi. So he has a
little drawl or
and when I met cats from L.A., a lot of them, one of my friends, his family's from Texas, so he
got a little bit of that in there.
A little bit of that. He know how to hook up some barbecue.
The Karim Gideon Quartet.
Yeah.
You want to tell me a little bit about that project?
Yeah, I started it about a year ago. It was actually was going to be before the pandemic. Originally was going to start before the pandemic.
Okay.
And right when it was getting started, the world ended.
Yeah.
So I shelved it. And then when everything started opening up, I wanted to help my band leader, Ole Jimmy Tafatone, the leader of Intertradition Jazz Ensemble, to help him reestablish himself, reestablish the band in the community. And I put what I wanted to do on the side.
The people who's in the quartet?
It is myself, Alex Webb on bass, Kevon Williams on piano, and Chris White on drums.
Okay.
And Chris, I discovered him here at the jam.
That's a jam. Yeah.
And
it's a great networking.
Yeah, it is.
Night. Yeah.
And same thing with Kevon. Kevon came here a few times. I heard him play, and I thought he was great. I had one pianist at the time, and then he ended up leaving. And so Chris recommended Kevon, and Kevon came to one of the rehearsals, and instant chemistry between, because there's issues in dynamic in the band where Chris and Kevon are like older brother, younger brother.
Yeah.
So Chris is the older brother, Kevon's the younger brother. They rib on each other, and Chris is more gregation.
Musically, they rib at each other, or just
just in general.
Okay.
But musically, they link up together. And then Alex, I knew Alex in school.
Yeah.
And Alex Alex shares a lot of political philosophies and ideas. And Alex also is someone who embraces the spirituality of the music. I remember I said at a rehearsal, I told him my description of each of these guys. So I said, Alex is someone that's a master. He comes out of the Detroit bass tradition. We're talking Ron Carter, Paul Chambers, Dirk Watkins. He loves guys like Buster Williams and Stanley Clarke and Jocko when he plays electric.
Yeah.
But his sound comes from Charlie Hayden because of the earthiness of Charlie and the spirit of rebellion that Charlie had. Kevon has a more elegant, refined sound, hanging back to Hank Jones and Kenny Barron, Wynton Kelly, but it's a quiet fire. So he will go, if he needs to, he'll break out them Herbie chops on you, and Chick Corea and McCoy, and then he's getting in more into like Mulgrew Miller, Donald Brown, Kenny Kirkland. Mm-hmm. And Chris is a modern take of the great Detroit drummers, and he listens to everybody. So he'll go listen. His foundations, of course, is Art Blakey, Elvin, and Tony, but he also listens to Clyde Stubblefield and Bernard Purdy. He listens to Nate Smith and Questlove. That's
great. You gotta be well rounded, you know.
And with Chris is unique because his cousin is Louis Jones III.
Oh, really?
So he's the cousin of another prominent young drummer. So they're always, This
has been the same lineup since you put the band together?
Since about the summer of last year.
Okay.
My previous pianist, that's an interesting story. It's kind of ironic because he wants to focus on being a social media influencer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He went, and more power to him.
Good for him. Wow.
Yeah, he's doing health and fitness, and
that's fantastic.
And I need to get my butt back in the gym also. Yeah. But he decided that that's what he didn't have the time to do this, so I was like, okay, no problem. But the current lineup has been very fruitful and musically for me, and I'm just a ringleader of these guys.
Yeah.
And
you done any recordings?
We actually did. I just went into the studio back in February. I'm going to do mix downs this month, first round of mix downs, if everything works out well. And then I'm going to start getting ready to have hopefully a release before the fall.
Let me know.
I will. Yeah. I'll let you know by July, August, if it's ready.
Excellent.
It's the quartet. You're going to hear a lot of the music that's I recorded, is stuff that you hear me play.
Yeah.
I didn't play a lot of some of the stuff that I normally would play in my sets. Like I cover a broad range from traditionally hard bop, but like I cover Wynton Marsalis's some of Wynton Marsalis's charts. A lot of I'm a huge fan of VSOP. If you don't know what VSOP is they refer to themselves as the quintet. Freddie Hubbard, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams. Funny story was that Teddy, when I got to Japan, Teddy told me the first album I should buy is the VSOP Quintet, Live Under the Sky. He says he said it should be a 2 LP set with 2 discs at the 90s. He said, go check that out. He said it was only sold in Japan at the time.
Oh,
it was a live recording at the Japan. They used to have a concert series called Live Under the Sky, and it's that quintet, and it's the most vicious night of music. And I remember going by that. I was like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Like,
so hey, so Cafe Chronicles.
yeah.
What we kind of do here is, if you could like chronicle a night or an event or something that happened to you at the cafe, somebody you saw at the cafe, or a night you performed. If something comes to mind, something that happened at the cafe that comes,
I usually hear a lot. So
yeah, you got a moment that you can remember.
I remember the first time when I came through. I came and backed up with Scott, and that was around
Scott Gwinnell.
Gwinnell. That was around 2018. I was like, okay, I've been hearing about this jam session. I'll go check it out. And I'm hanging out, go in, sign my name on the list, and get up there and play a few tunes. And I'm like, okay. My thing, I'm at a point in my life where I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to. I don't have the energy to do the battle sessions anymore.
Yeah.
Like go in and just have a Herculean contest. I want to come out and jam. I want to have some fun. And initially, that was this is cool. I can just come and hang out, talk to Scott a little bit, come play some tunes, and then it turned to where like I'm sort of like in some way holding court.
Yeah.
Because
that was early days of the jam, then, right?
Yeah, those early days. And to the point where Scott gives me a little bit of leeway. Like, I wonder if you guys get a little bit of leeway. Scott sees me and say, hey, cool, go up there and play.
Yeah.
He tells me to take it out the horn and go up there and play. But more so is seeing a lot of people that the jam produced. Like Olivia Bangor.
Oh, yeah.
And when I first heard her, I was like, she's phenomenal.
Vocalist.
Yep. And now Kayla Suss, who's phenomenal.
Yeah. She got her own show because of that.
Yeah.
I booked her out of,
Yeah. And there's some great musicians like Chris White. I discovered him, and I was like, we just needed a drummer. It was perfect timing. We needed a drummer for Inner Tradition. And I was like, I might have a gig for you, man.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you up to Ola Jimmy, because Ola Jimmy, I had to explain to Ola Jimmy, like, Chris is raw, but he can swing hard. And he was like, okay. He came to rehearsal and fell in love with him. And then from there, Chris and Alex was the first 2 people I wanted to do my project with. And not only that, like, seeing guys get better. Like, there's a drummer named Larry Nagel. He's there every week, and every time I hear him, he's better. Or Jeff, he's a saxophone player, and every time I hear him, he's there every week. He tells the greatest dad jokes in the world. And Mike, the vocalist Mike, he's how they getting comfortable, and Ruby, like,
it's a great night. I mean, people come down and they hang out and they become comfortable, and that helps them to become better musicians. And they feel, they get more comfortable, and they get, a little bit more self-esteem.
Even for me, like, because I consider one of my deficiencies, I never worked with vocalists.
Yeah.
So I never accompanied a vocalist. So I'm always taking the opportunity to get up there with a vocalist and accompanying them and learning how to support them. And a lot of guys, younger guys that get up there and play with a vocalist, they turn into them. I said, no, you can't do that. They're the star. The spotlight's on them. You just in the back. You need to be in the back and just play, and then you step out for that one chorus. Then come back to the background. This is a great place for a lot of young players to learn etiquette, the etiquette of going to a jam session, and the etiquette of maybe eventually going to sit in.
Yeah.
So it's a great vibe. The staff is great.
That's fun.
So
May 10th, the Karim Gideon Quartet.
Yes.
Aretha's Jazz Cafe.
Yes.
So, hey, man, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, no problem, man.
It was
no
fun.
problem. This is fun.
Yeah.
I have a lot of war stories.
Yeah.
I can tell you all the war stories when I was in overseas.
Like literal war stories.
Sometimes literal war
yeah.
stories. Like me going to Japan playing and finding places to play around the world.
Yeah.
Every port I pulled into. Even a place like Afghanistan. Surprisingly enough, there was cats in Kabul.
Yeah, I believe
Look
it.
at they wanted to play at that time.
But thank you so much for doing this.
No problem, man. Keep this
and
up.
we'll see you May 10th.
May 10th,
Aretha's
8
Jazz
p.m.
Cafe. All right. Thank you so much, Karim.
No problem, man.
All right. Thanks. All right.